All right, so to wrap up what happened in that piece, we did a moving bass line to start. Then we tried a melody on the top voice with a little bit of changing bass notes, and then got into the adventurous stuff by doing some rhythms over here with tapping. In the tapping thing, I do want to mention that at times I was tapping 2 notes at a time. So I was going tap, pull, tap, pull, tap, pull, tap, pull. Now moving up. Here I was doing 2 notes at a time. So tapping 2 notes at a time is something to look out for and mess around with. Let's go back to the beginning though. And I do want to mention that most of these things that I'm doing simply don't work in standard tuning. And the reason why is because we're dealing a lot with open strings. Depending on what key you're in and what open strings you're using, it can work in standard tuning. But part of the reason why I enjoy open tunings is because if you have a beautiful chord right here, then simply anything you play with your right hand is going to sound pretty. Then everything else is just butter in a way. So here we just had this simple pattern going where we're going like this. Now that just sounds pretty in a way. I mean, you could create an entire verse of a song just like that. Sing over it, write some beautiful words to it. You might even change the bass line. On 1 string. What we were doing in the piece though is we were going descending, starting on D, on the A string. So we were going with the same pattern on the right hand. So we went. And then we did a variation where we went up the second time. With the right hand pattern, it sounds like this. Now keep in mind, for your particular song that you'll write with this, you don't have to keep just open strings on top. You can change them. This is just a simple approach for getting you to mess around with the tuning. The next thing we did is we had a melody on top. Again, that is just one idea for a melody. Come up with your own melody and see what happens if you do something up here. Anything that sounds good to you, I'll probably love it because I love this tuning and almost anything sounds pretty in it. But in this particular song, we were going. And then we added together, it's if you wanted, you can add some open strings in there with pull-offs. We did this tapping part, tap, pull, tap, pull, tap. Now, I was only going up a few of the chords in the scale. You could do this on the inner voice. You could do it on the upper voice. Tons of ideas. Let's go back to the first one though. this one. Tap, pull, fall on the note, pull off it. So you're essentially plucking the string with your left hand. Tap, meaning you're falling onto the string completely with the left hand. You're pulling off, so you're actually, like I said, plucking the string with your left hand. And then we're doing it on 2 notes at a time. So right now on A, pulling off to the open G string, and tapping onto the F sharp and pulling off to the open D string. And then we're taking those shapes and moving it up in thirds. You could go all the way up. Or you could keep it simpler and do just a few, like we were doing before, which was just, and I resolved it here. So, then on the right hand, I was doing something a little bit more intricate than what I first showed you, which was 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's listen to how it went again. So I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Try to hear it in your head like you're listening to a drum set. Together. That same pattern and we try it on the higher strings like this. So that's pretty fun to do. Let's put it all together now. Again, we have moving bass lines, moving melody on the top, we've got some really interesting ideas to mess around with just to kickstart into DADGAD tuning, which is the first open tuning that I ever explored. There's so many different versions that you can do based off of DADGAD, changing one more string at a time, and that's to experiment with later. But we had a couple different things that we were doing. Moving bass lines, we had a melody up top with a little bit in the changing of the low frequency. And then we were doing this rhythmic pattern with a little bit of tapping. So here it is.